And that's the real tension here. Because if this brand is truly strong, it shouldn't need a streaming platform partnership to keep the lights on. It should stand on product, repeat customers, and credibility. But if it's riding on hype, headlines, and visibility boosts, then even a tiny visual blunder becomes more than a meme. It becomes a symbol, a warning sign, a last chance moment. So what's actually happening behind this Valentine's drop? What's confirmed, what's being assumed, and what's the business reality nobody wants to say out loud yet? By the end, you'll see why this chocolate launch isn't just a seasonal gimmick. It's a stress test of Meghan's entire post-royal strategy. Meghan's lifestyle branding didn't start with a chocolate bar. Long before the royal wedding, she was building a public identity around food, hosting, wellness, travel, and that thoughtful living vibe, the kind of persona that makes you believe she always has fresh flowers on the table and knows the exact candle scent for every mood. That matters because a lifestyle brand isn't only a store, it's an idea, a promise. It's selling a version of you that you can buy into. And her current brand, as ever, has been positioned as an extension of that long-running identity. Pantry-friendly, giftable, curated, polished. The emphasis is always the same: little rituals, small luxuries, elevated everyday moments. Not loud, not chaotic, more like a soft-focus world where everything feels intentional. But here's the thing, intentionality is fragile. When you charge luxury prices, you can't just be cute, you have to be precise. People don't forgive close enough in premium markets, and the internet especially doesn't forgive sloppy visuals when you're asking them to pay a premium for a product that already exists in plenty of other forms. Now, this Valentine's launch is tied to a partnership with a well-known Los Angeles chocolatier, and it's being framed as a return collaboration, meaning it's not the first time these two names have been linked. That's important because it changes the storyline. A first launch can succeed on curiosity. A second launch is about proof, repeat demand, brand endurance, and that's why the timing matters so much. This drop lands in a moment when people are already asking, is As Ever becoming a standalone business, or is it functioning as a sidecar to Meghan's entertainment deals and public profile? Because if you strip away the celebrity, the royal association, and the platform partnerships, what remains has to be a real consumer brand. Real supply chain, real margins, real retention, real trust. And if you've ever watched celebrity businesses rise and fall, you know the difference between a drop culture moment and an actual company is brutal. Hold on, because this next part is crucial. The product details sound simple, but the implications are huge. The headline item is a limited edition Valentine's chocolate collection anchored by a premium priced set. The marketing language leans hard into romance and gifting, the kind of copy that implies you're not just buying sweets, you're buying sentiment. The collection has been described as incorporating fruit spread-inspired flavors and a mix of floral and nostalgic notes, basically a blend of pretty and comfort. It's designed to be giftable, shareable, and also totally acceptable to buy for yourself. And if that sounds calculated, it is. Because Valentine's Day isn't just for couples anymore. It's for friends, for self-care shoppers, for people who want something indulgent without needing a relationship storyline. That broader audience is where lifestyle brands make real money. But the controversy angle didn't come from what's inside the box. It came from what's in the promo. The online backlash from critics latched onto the styling, and it wasn't the "this is too pink" type of critique. It was the "why does this look dirty" critique. A detail in the image that some viewers interpreted as a grease mark or stain. People complaining the visuals felt inconsistent with luxury. Others claiming the trays looked worn. Some went further and framed it as unhygienic, which is honestly the worst word you can attach to food marketing, even if it's exaggerated. And then, right on cue, the internet did what it always does. It turned it into a metaphor. Not just "this image looks off," but "this is what the whole brand is: messy, overpriced, and pretending." Now, to be fair, there's a legitimate possibility that what people are calling a stain is just lighting or shadow. That's the thing about highly stylized product photography. It can look editorial and moody, but moody lighting can also read as dirty if you're looking for flaws. And once the narrative is set, it doesn't matter what the truth is. People will see what they want to see. But wait, it gets even more interesting, because the backlash and the praise are happening at the same time, and that split tells you exactly what kind of brand this is becoming. Supporters are praising the aesthetic, the concept, the giftability, the fact that it feels curated and elevated compared to mass-market Valentine chocolate. They're reacting emotionally, like they're buying into a vibe, not evaluating a SKU. Critics, on the other hand, are responding like consumers and auditors: price, originality, execution, and whether this is basically a premium label on something that doesn't feel premium enough. And this is where the business reality kicks in. Luxury pricing makes you vulnerable to scrutiny. At a lower price point, people might shrug off a weird napkin corner. At a premium price point, people treat the napkin corner like evidence. Now here's where things take a turn. The real core mystery isn't whether people will argue online. They always will. The real question is whether the numbers will back the brand, because the expectation right now is that sales performance, either sellout speed, inventory hints, or reported demand, is going to leak or be reported soon. And if the numbers show strong demand again, it becomes harder to argue that the brand is failing, no matter how loud the critics are. But if demand looks soft, the same critics will frame it as proof that the hype is fading. And the stakes feel even higher, because this brand has been tied, directly or indirectly, to bigger partnerships that amplify its reach. When a major platform is promoting your brand, even quietly, it changes your customer funnel. It gives you exposure that most startups would pay millions to get. So let's talk about that platform question without getting messy. Here's what's confirmed in the public narrative. The brand has been promoted in spaces connected to a major entertainment partnership, and the partnership itself has been publicly described as evolving over time, shifting from one deal structure to another. That doesn't automatically mean ending, but it does suggest changing priorities and changing leverage. And if that partnership ever stops boosting the lifestyle brand, even gradually, as ever would need to rely more heavily on the fundamentals: brand trust, repeat customers, product market fit, and operational excellence. That's the part people rarely talk about with celebrity brands, because it's not glamorous. But it's everything. Okay, so what happened next? The online reaction started to turn into something else. A referendum on Meghan's credibility as a business founder. Because this isn't just about a chocolate box, it's about whether the public believes she's building something real, or building something performative. And that belief determines how people interpret every single detail. If you already like Meghan, you interpret the stained discourse as petty harassment, nitpicking, bad faith obsession. If you already dislike her, you interpret it as exactly what you expected. She can't even get the basics right. That polarization isn't new, but here's why it matters now. In retail, your core buyers need to trust you. You don't need everyone to love you, but you do need enough people to trust the product, especially at luxury pricing. And in a weird way, the blunder discourse can either hurt or help depending on how the brand handles it. If the brand ignores it and sells out anyway, it becomes a non-issue. If the brand sells out and supporters spin the criticism as they're obsessed, it becomes fuel. But if sales are weak, the same criticism becomes a headline that sticks. And here's the twist you probably haven't heard in plain language: outrage can be a sales driver. Not always, but often enough that marketers quietly count on it. People talk, people search, people click, and some percentage buys, even if it's just to see what the fuss is about. Scarcity messaging makes that even stronger, because it triggers urgency. If you think something will sell out fast, you don't debate for 3 days. You buy now and rationalize later. Stay with me here, because what I'm about to tell you changes everything. The love letter theme is actually a high-risk strategy, because a love letter implies intimacy and detail. It implies care. It implies something handmade, personal, almost sacred. And that's the danger. If your product visuals or execution look even slightly careless, the metaphor collapses. It feels like someone bragging about romance while forgetting your birthday. Harsh comparison, but you get it. So when people claim to see a stain or sloppy styling, they're not just critiquing an image. They're saying, your promise and your execution don't match. That's how luxury brands get damaged. Not by one complaint, but by the perception of mismatch. Now, let's talk about the biggest revelation angle in this story. This launch is being treated like a product drop, but it's actually functioning like a business viability check. Here's the simple truth. If As Ever can repeatedly sell limited edition collections at premium pricing, it signals the brand has a real customer base. It also signals that Meghan's audience doesn't just follow, they buy. That's powerful. That's the difference between influence and revenue. But if the brand relies too heavily on limited drops and constant scarcity, it can also trap itself. Because scarcity is a hack for early momentum, but it can become a crutch. If everything is limited, you never prove stable demand. You only prove hype spikes. And the moment the hype machine slows, whether that's because the news cycle moves on, or because a partnership shifts, or because the audience gets fatigued, the brand needs real foundations to keep revenue steady. Now, this is where it gets wild. There has already been recent public discourse around the brand's inventory and demand, sparked by online users interpreting technical signals as proof of slow sales. The brand narrative, from supporters and business-friendly commentary, pushed back on that interpretation and framed large inventory as scaling and expansion planning. And honestly, both things can be true. A brand can be scaling and still be vulnerable. A brand can have big inventory and still sell fast. A brand can sell out and still have weak margins. People confuse sold out with profitable, and those are not the same thing. Selling out can be a marketing strategy. Profit is the business. So the real revelation isn't whether the chocolate looks pretty or whether someone zoomed in too hard. The revelation is that every As Ever launch is becoming a public scoreboard game. The internet wants to measure success in real time, and the brand is operating in an environment where even technical glitches, shadows, or styling choices become evidence for or against viability. Now, let's be balanced for a second, because it's easy to slip into either a fan narrative or a critic narrative. On Meghan's side, it's fair to say she's building a lifestyle line that's consistent with her long-term public persona. The concept of thoughtful gifting and pantry-friendly luxuries has a real market. Plenty of brands live in that lane and thrive, and a partnership with an established chocolatier is a credible way to deliver quality while maintaining a curated aesthetic. It's also fair to say that people are sometimes looking for reasons to hate anything she does, and the intensity of the blunder obsession can be disproportionate. A shadow is not a scandal. A napkin corner is not a bankruptcy filing. But on the skeptical side, it's also fair to question premium pricing, originality, and whether the brand is offering something meaningfully different from what consumers can get elsewhere. Luxury shoppers want craftsmanship and distinctiveness. If a product feels like repackaging, the brand will be judged harshly, especially when the founder is famous. And then there's the Netflix factor, the part everyone dances around. Speculation, clearly labeled. If the entertainment partnership becomes less active in promoting the lifestyle brand, As Ever could see a drop in visibility and traffic, which would put more pressure on retention and repeat customers. That's a normal business risk, not a moral judgment. But there's also an optimistic speculation. If As Ever has already built enough loyal buyers, it might not need constant platform support. In that scenario, Netflix was the launchpad, not the lifeline. That's the best case. So what are the potential consequences from here? If the Valentine's collection sells out quickly again, it strengthens the story that the brand has real momentum and the controversy becomes background noise. It may also encourage the brand to keep leaning into limited edition drops, which are proven attention magnets. If sales are slower, we're going to see a different story take over. That the audience is tiring, that the luxury pricing isn't landing, that the brand is struggling without constant novelty, and critics will frame any small mistake, real or perceived, as a symptom of decline. And if any business journal reports numbers or sellout timing in the next couple of days, that narrative will harden fast. Here's what I found fascinating. In modern celebrity commerce, perception moves faster than facts. People decide whether a launch is a win before any reliable sales data exists. Then they hunt for evidence to support what they already believe. That's why this feels like drama, not business, because online, business is entertainment now. And then, I kid you not, we end up with a world where a chocolate promo image is treated like a referendum on someone's entire post-royal identity. So let's close this out by bringing it back to the beginning. This love letter chocolate launch isn't just a cute seasonal moment. It's a high-stakes branding test. Premium price, limited availability, massive attention, and a public that's split down the middle, ready to interpret every pixel as proof of either brilliance or failure. If As Ever keeps delivering sellouts and building repeat demand, it can survive even if big partnerships evolve or diminish. If it can't, then every launch becomes louder, riskier, and more dependent on the hype cycle, and that's not a stable business model. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think the blunder chatter is harmless internet noise, or do you think it actually damages a luxury brand when perception is the product? Drop your take in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown and you want more stories like this, the launches, the leaks, the power plays, and the business reality behind the headlines, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And keep an eye on what gets reported next, because if sales numbers or sellout timing start circulating, that's where this story flips from drama to undeniable proof.